The message came in while I was tying Oliver's shoelaces. I can still feel your hands on me from last night. That moon necklace looked perfect on my skin. Do not forget you said you would leave her. Good morning, Rowan. I stopped breathing for a moment. My son tapped my shoulder and said, Mom, that is the wrong shoe. But my eyes were glued to the screen like someone had nailed them there. My fingers went cold. The text sat in my palm like a lit match. Rowan was in the kitchen humming while grinding coffee beans, moving with the ease of a man who absolutely did not receive a romantic message from someone who was not his wife. He poured water into the machine, the smell of Starbucks coffee filling the room. Normally it comforted me. That morning it made my stomach turn. I read the message again, slowly. Hands on me. Moon necklace. Leave her. Good morning, Rowan. A thought flashed through my mind, sharp and ridiculous. At least someone in this marriage was getting jewelry. I almost laughed, but the sound died halfway in my throat. Everything okay in there? Rowan called out. I pressed the phone against my leg and forced my face into something that might pass as normal. Yeah, just busy. Oliver stared at me with the blunt honesty only small children possess. Mom, your face looks weird. Rowan walked past us, reached for his travel mug, and kissed the top of my head as if he were simply checking a box on a to-do list. The kiss felt empty, almost mechanical. It made the message sting more. When the door closed behind him, I finally exhaled, then inhaled too quickly and coughed so hard, Oliver patted my back like he was comforting a nervous puppy. Mom, should we call Grandma? He asked. I shook my head. Not yet, sweetheart. As soon as Rowan's car pulled out of the driveway, I reopened the message, praying it would somehow morph into a weather alert or a package delivery notification. But no, the words were still there, sharp and deliberate. My phone buzzed again. Pick up that wine you promised. Last night was unforgettable. A short, dry laugh escaped me. It sounded nothing like me. Oliver frowned, confused by the sound. Mom, are you laughing or choking? Both, I muttered. My hand shook as I took screenshots. The first one was crooked and caught half the kitchen counter. The second one included part of my confused reflection in the glass. It took 3 tries before I got a clean image. Evidence. Something I did not want, but now had to live with. I drove Oliver to preschool, trying not to let my voice crack as I told him to have a good day. He ran inside, clutching his stuffed rabbit, oblivious to the fact that his family's foundation had split open that morning. Back in the car, I sat with both hands on the steering wheel, staring ahead, but seeing nothing. My thoughts were loud and quiet at the same time. My husband had another woman, and she believed he would leave me. She believed she was winning something. The strange thing was, I did not feel rage. Not yet. I felt something colder, steadier, almost frightening in its clarity. I finally understood something I had ignored for years. I was not the one he had chosen. But I could choose myself. I spent the rest of the morning at work pretending to be a fully functioning adult, which was impressive considering my soul had quietly left my body around 7:42 a.m. The office looked normal, people typing, printers jamming, someone arguing with the microwave again. Meanwhile, I sat at my desk replaying the message in my mind like a cursed ringtone. Jude walked up holding a stack of folders. Marina, quick question. Did you sleep at all? Yes, I lied. Are you sure? Because you're blinking like someone who saw a ghost but is trying to be polite about it. If only it had been a ghost. Ghosts cannot text your husband at dawn. I shuffled papers that did not need to be shuffled. Just tired. He leaned closer and whispered, If you need coffee, I have emergency rations in my drawer. Don't ask why. Somehow, that almost made me smile. I opened my laptop. The login screen stared back at me with the same judgment I used to reserve for Rowan when he claimed he forgot to take the trash out for the 7th day in a row. I typed in my password, hands trembling slightly. Every time I blinked, the words from the message appeared again. Hands on me. Moon necklace. Leave her. My chest tightened. I excused myself and slipped into the restroom. The mirror reflected a woman who looked like she'd aged 10 years since breakfast. I splashed water on my face and whispered, Get it together. You are not falling apart in front of the hand dryer. I returned to my desk, but the universe apparently felt I had not been tortured enough. My phone buzzed again, a new message from the same number. Tell Rowan I'm free tonight if he needs an excuse to stay out. I almost dropped the phone. My hand jerked, knocking over my water bottle, drenching my planner and half my dignity. Jude rushed back. Whoa, disaster at table 5. You okay? I'm fine, I said, mopping up water with the legal pad that had all my deadlines on it. Totally fine. He narrowed his eyes. Are you allergic to mornings? Yes, I said without hesitation. Extremely. He laughed and walked away, thankfully unaware that he had just witnessed the emotional equivalent of a house fire. I stared at the new message until the letters blurred. My pulse thudded in my ears. I needed answers, but I also needed to breathe. I opened a blank document on my MacBook and typed the words, "What do I actually know?" It felt strange, almost clinical, but it grounded me. 1. Rowan had a mistress. 2. She believed he was going to leave me. 3. He had promised her something he never had the courage to say to my face. 4. I could not ignore this anymore. I deleted the list, then I deleted the deletion, then I restored it because suddenly it felt like evidence, even if it was only evidence of my own unraveling. Around lunchtime, Rowan texted me, "Busy day. Might be late." I stared at the message. No apology, no warmth, nothing. The same template he had been using for months. I typed back, "Okay, just that." A single word. I did not trust myself with more. As I hit send, a strange, almost darkly comedic thought surfaced. If Rowan ever did try to win me back, the universe would need to send me a notarized letter confirming he had been replaced by a better version. Preferably one who remembered anniversaries and did not buy moon jewelry for other women. I shut my laptop, grabbed my coat, and walked outside for air. The Seattle sky was its usual gray, but the cold helped steady me. I leaned against the railing overlooking the street and breathed slowly until my heartbeat stopped racing. And that was when I made the decision. I was going to find out everything. Not by screaming, not by confronting him, not by losing myself. I would observe, collect, plan, quietly, calmly, carefully. If he had chosen someone else, fine. But I would choose the moment I walked away. That evening, after picking Oliver up from preschool, I drove home with the kind of calm that felt suspicious even to myself. Oliver was in the back seat making his stuffed rabbit hop along the window. He kept narrating a story about a superhero bunny who saved the world using only carrots and attitude. It was exactly the level of chaos I needed to stay grounded. When we got home, Rowan was already there. That alone was unusual. He normally arrived late, claiming traffic, meetings, emergencies, or any excuse he could pull out of thin air. Today he was in the kitchen stirring pasta like a man trying to appear domestic. "Hey," he said with a smile that almost seemed rehearsed. "Thought I'd make dinner." I stared at the pot. "You are making pasta?" He nodded proudly. "Yeah." Felt like helping. Rowan had not cooked since 2019 when he nearly set off the smoke alarm boiling eggs. So yes, I was alarmed. The pasta also looked dangerously close to disintegrating into mush. Oliver tugged my sleeve. "Mom, is Dad sick?" Rowan laughed a little too hard. "No, buddy, just being nice." Oliver leaned toward me and whispered loudly, "That is suspicious." I nearly cracked a smile. I set my bag down and watched Rowan move around the kitchen with the focus of someone assembling a bomb. "So," I said casually, "busy day?" "Yeah," he shrugged. "Tiring." A pause. "What about you?" I stirred my tea. "Eventful." For half a second, he froze. Then he nodded slowly. "Oh, like what?" "Oh, you know," I said, keeping my voice even. "Emails, deadlines, unexpected messages." He glanced at me sharply. I could practically see the gears turning in his head, but he forced his expression into something neutral. "Well, work can be unpredictable." "Extremely," I replied. The silence between us stretched thick enough to slice. Oliver, unaware of the tension, slid his superhero bunny across the counter. "Dad, look, Bunny says you should not burn the dinner." Rowan cleared his throat. "Dinner is fine." The pot hissed like it disagreed. I excused myself and went upstairs under the pretense of changing clothes, but really, I wanted to check something. I had noticed earlier that Rowan's study door was slightly open, the room he guarded like a dragon with a hoard. Inside, his MacBook sat on the desk, plugged in. Rowan never left it unattended. Ever. It was like finding a tiger politely sleeping in your living room. My pulse quickened. I approached slowly, like the laptop might lunge. I tapped the trackpad. The screen lit up, and for a split second, I saw it. A notification. A preview of a message. One name. Celine. I could not read the whole thing before it vanished, but I saw enough. Her name, his name, a heart, and something about Friday night. I snapped the laptop shut, too fast. It made a loud clap. Marina? Rowan called from downstairs. My heart jumped into my throat. Just dropped something, I said, forcing my voice into its most normal setting. He did not sound fully convinced, but he did not come up either. Maybe the pasta had demanded attention again. I stood there in the quiet room, surrounded by the faint smell of Rowan's cologne and the hum of the computer charger. There it was, confirmation. Not speculation, not imagination, not insecurity. Fact. He was still seeing her. My breath steadied as something inside me clicked into place. Not rage, not tears, not heartbreak. Strategy. I walked downstairs and sat at the dinner table. Rowan served the pasta, which looked like it had gone to war and lost. Oliver poked it with his fork. Dad, he said solemnly, this is not pasta. This is sadness noodles. Rowan sighed. It is edible. Barely, I murmured. He looked at me again, searching for something in my expression. I made sure he found nothing. If he could pretend, so could I. For now. Because the truth was simple. He thought he was hiding everything. But I had already begun writing his ending. I woke up the next morning with a plan. Not a full plan, but the shape of one. The kind of plan that forms quietly when heartbreak sharpens into clarity. Rowan left early for work, calling out a vague goodbye as he grabbed his keys. I did not bother responding. He did not notice. After dropping Oliver off at preschool, I drove to a small bakery near Lake Union. The place smelled like warm sugar and fresh croissants, a combination strong enough to convince anyone their life was not falling apart. I sat in a corner booth with my laptop and reopened the folder where I kept the screenshots. There they were. 3 images that had cracked my marriage open like a fault line. I stared at them until my chest stopped tightening. Then I opened a new document titled Notes. I typed, Step 1, find out exactly how deep this goes. I paused, then added, Step 2, do not get arrested in the process. As I sipped my coffee, someone slid into the booth across from me. I nearly spilled my drink. It was Miss Darlene, our next-door neighbor, wearing a bright red raincoat and a wide grin. She lived alone, had a sharp wit, and had a talent for appearing in places she had never been invited. Morning, sweetheart, she said. You left the house fast. Everything all right? Her timing was suspiciously perfect, like the universe had sent her as emotional backup. I am fine, I lied. She raised an eyebrow. No, you are not. Your aura looks crunchy. My aura is none of your business. Everything is my business. I am retired. I let out a short laugh. It surprised me. I just needed space to think. About your husband. She nodded like she had solved a crime. I know that look. Saw it on myself back in 1983. What happened in 1983? I asked. She waved a hand. Long story. Ends with a divorce settlement and me getting the good blender. I almost smiled again. Almost. She sipped her tea and lowered her voice. You want help? Help with what? Finding out the truth. Men always think they are subtle. They are not. They leave clues everywhere like toddlers. I stared at her. You are serious. Dead serious, and you need someone who is not emotionally compromised. I am not compromised, I said. She pointed her spoon at me. Your eyes say you want to set his car on fire. I do not want to set his car on fire, I said quickly. Good. Because arson paperwork is exhausting. I shook my head, but warmth spread in my chest. Even when life cracked, humor had a way of sweeping in through the broken places. We spent the next hour reviewing what I knew and what I needed to know. Where Rowan claimed he was on certain nights, what time he came home, his new routines. His study door always locked, his sudden interest in cologne and hair product. Darlene took notes like she was preparing for a courtroom cross-examination. At one point she whispered, Has he been going to the gym more? Yes. How did you know? Every cheating man suddenly becomes obsessed with cardio. Happens every decade. I covered my face with my hands. This is a disaster. No, sweetheart, she said gently. This is clarity disguised as disaster. Her words settled in my chest like a weight that actually made me lighter. Before she left, she touched my arm. When you are ready to make your move, you let me know. I have seen enough heartbreak to know you will get through this. I nodded, holding back tears. Thank you, Darlene. Do not thank me yet, she said, grabbing her purse. Wait until this is over and you are happy again. As she walked out, I stared at the screen one more time. The plan was still forming, but now I was not alone. I had someone watching my blind spots. And for the first time since the message arrived, I felt something close to strength. Rowan thought he controlled the narrative. He had no idea the story was already shifting in my favor. The following Friday, Seattle decided to pour rain with the enthusiasm of a broken fire hydrant. I stood at my office window, watching the downpour blur the skyline, my mind already racing ahead of the day. Rowan had claimed he needed to work late. I knew exactly what that meant now. I wasn't guessing anymore. I had evidence, timing, patterns, and a growing list of lies that fit together too neatly. Jude appeared at my desk holding a cup of coffee like a peace offering. "You look like someone who just found out her favorite show was canceled." I blinked. "It might as well be." He sat on the edge of my desk. "Want to talk about it?" "No," I said gently. "But thank you." "All right," he shrugged. "But if you start screaming into the microwave again, I'm pretending I don't know you." A small, unexpected laugh escaped me. I appreciated him without needing to explain a thing. By the time I left work, it was dark. The rain hadn't stopped. I texted Darlene a simple message, "He's out tonight." Her reply came instantly. "I'm ready. Wear dark colors." "Why dark colors?" "So you blend in. It's called strategy." "This isn't a spy movie." "It is now." Despite everything, I smiled. I drove to pick her up. She climbed into my car wearing a black raincoat, sunglasses, and a baseball cap that said, "I'm watching you." At night, in a storm. "Darlene," I said carefully, "why the sunglasses?" "They help me focus." "You can't see anything." "That helps even more." I shook my head but felt gratitude warming my chest. Leave it to Darlene to bring comedic relief to the worst chapter of my life. We followed the GPS ping from Rowan's shared location. He didn't know I still had access to it. He'd forgotten it was enabled back when we used it to track hiking trails. Now it led us to a part of South Lake Union filled with trendy restaurants and expensive rooftop bars. His dot stopped moving. "He's there," I said. "Time for reconnaissance," Darlene replied, pulling out binoculars. "Where did you even get those?" "Amazon. Next day delivery. A woman must be prepared." We crossed the street, trying to look casual. Darlene looked like she was rehearsing for a detective show. I kept my hood up, feeling my pulse climb as we approached a restaurant with floor-to-ceiling windows glowing like warm lanterns. And there he was. Rowan sat at a candlelit table with Celine. She leaned toward him, touching his arm, laughing at something he said. He looked at her the way he used to look at me, soft, attentive, wanting. My chest tightened again, but this time the pain felt different. Not sharp, not overwhelming, just final. "I see him," Darlene whispered. "And wow, she's wearing a dress that must be allergic to fabric." I almost snorted. "Please don't start commentary." Too late. Also, he's using his charming smile. That's his weakest move. I stared at Rowan through the rain-speckled window. Watching them felt surreal, like seeing a version of my life I was no longer part of. A life that didn't include the nights I stayed up with Oliver, the bills I organized, the dinners I cooked alone, or the quiet ache of loving a man who had already checked out. Darlene whispered, "Sweetheart, you don't deserve this." "I know," I said softly, and I meant it. We watched long enough for my anger to cool and crystallize into something steadier than fire. Resolve. Then suddenly, Rowan's phone lit up on the table. I saw the preview through the glass. "Running late tonight? Don't wait up." He had texted that to me, while sitting across from her, while lying for the 100th time. Something inside me clicked. I turned to Darlene. "I'm done." "Done watching?" "Done with him." She nodded with the seriousness of a judge. "Good. Then let's leave. You've seen enough." We walked back to the car quietly. Even with the rain, even with the ache, I felt strangely clear. Lighter. On the drive home, Darlene patted my hand. "When this is over, you're going to remember tonight as the moment you took your power back." I believed her, and I knew the next step. It was time to prepare for the day I walked away. Not in anger, not in chaos, but in full control. Saturday morning arrived with the kind of quiet that makes you suspicious. Oliver was drawing dinosaurs at the kitchen table, humming a tune he probably invented on the spot. Rowan had already left the house before either of us woke up. Another early meeting. At this point, he might as well have tattooed the word excuse on his forehead. I poured cereal for Oliver and sat across from him, watching him color a T-Rex bright purple. "Is that accurate?" I asked. "No," he said confidently. "But it is fabulous." I nodded. "Fair enough." My mind wasn't on dinosaurs, it was on my next step. I had seen enough. I had enough proof. Now the plan had to shift from discovery to escape. While Oliver drew, I opened my laptop and began researching lawyers, custody laws, housing options, financial strategies. I typed quietly, careful not to let him sense the earthquake happening in my chest. He looked up suddenly. "Mom, why are you typing like you're trying to sneak up on the keyboard?" I paused. "Am I?" "Yes, you look suspicious." I gave him a tight smile. "I am working on something important." "Like homework for grown-ups?" "Exactly." The truth was, I felt like I was building a secret exit tunnel under my own life. Around noon, I drove to a storage facility near Fremont. It was clean, bright, and smelled faintly like cardboard. I rented a small climate-controlled unit under my maiden name and told the clerk it was for seasonal decorations. He nodded, unfazed. "People store weird stuff here. One lady keeps 14 mannequins." I blinked. "Why?" "Do not know. Do not want to know." I thanked him and walked out quickly before I accidentally learned anything else. Over the next hour, I began quietly moving small items into the unit. Childhood photos, important documents, baby clothes I wanted Oliver to have someday. Things that mattered to me, not to Rowan. I had never packed with such calm purpose before. It felt like I was reclaiming pieces of myself one box at a time. On my way home, I stopped by a Target and picked up a set of suitcases. Practical, neutral-colored suitcases, the kind you buy when you don't want questions. In the checkout line, the cashier looked at the stack and said, "Big trip?" I smiled politely, something like that. She nodded, as if she understood more than I had said. Back at home, I tucked the suitcases into the back of my closet where Rowan never looked. He wouldn't have noticed anyway. He hadn't noticed much lately. That evening, after putting Oliver to bed, I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of tea. The house felt strangely still, like it was listening. I pulled out my notebook and wrote down every step I needed to take. Open a separate bank account, meet with a lawyer, finalize living arrangements, prepare documents for custody, pack essentials for Oliver, choose a move-out date. My hand trembled slightly, but not from fear, from certainty. Just as I finished the list, the front door opened. Rowan stepped inside, smelling faintly of expensive cologne and something sweet, maybe dessert, or maybe her perfume. He looked tired, but in the way people look after a night out, not a long day at work. "Hey," he said casually, kissing my hair. "How was your day?" "Good," I said, sipping my tea. My voice sounded unfamiliar even to me, steady, controlled. He nodded, dropped his keys, and walked upstairs as if nothing in our lives had shifted. But in my notebook, the plan was complete. Not just an idea, not wishful thinking, a roadmap. The moment the door clicked upstairs, I whispered to myself, "You're almost there." My life was changing, quietly, strategically, and he had no idea. The morning I chose to leave did not feel cinematic. It wasn't stormy or dramatic, it was calm. The sky was pale, the kind of soft gray Seattle specializes in. Oliver padded into the kitchen wearing mismatched socks and carrying his stuffed rabbit by one ear. "Mom," he said, yawning, "why are we up so early?" I smiled gently. "We have somewhere important to go today." "Is it school?" "No." "Is it the zoo?" "Not exactly." He considered this. "Is it somewhere with snacks?" "Yes," I said. "Definitely somewhere with snacks." That satisfied him. I packed quietly, moving through the house with steady motions. I grabbed the essentials from my closet, tucked them into the new suitcase, and double-checked all the documents I'd neatly gathered in a folder. Birth certificate, medical records, financial statements, a printout of the screenshots. It was amazing how much of your life could fit into a single folder when you needed to leave quickly. Every sound felt sharper. The whir of the kettle, the click of a zipper, the soft thud of Oliver's footsteps, my own heartbeat. At 6:15 a.m. I sent Rowan a message, "Taking Oliver out this morning, breakfast plans." It was vague on purpose, the kind of message that didn't raise alarms. He responded instantly, "Okay, busy day ahead." Busy, of course. I knelt in front of Oliver to button his jacket. "Are you ready?" I asked. He nodded. "Can Bunny come?" "Absolutely." He held out the rabbit, then paused. "Mom, are you sad?" The honesty hurt more than anything else that week. "Not sad," I said softly. "Just brave." He blinked, processing. "Okay, I can be brave too." We stepped outside into the cool morning. My Uber pulled up to the curb, the driver waving cheerfully. "Good morning." Oliver waved back. "We are going somewhere with snacks." The driver grinned. I liked the confidence. As he helped load the suitcase into the trunk, he asked, "Heading to the airport?" I shook my head. "Not today." He nodded as if he understood that the answer wasn't really an answer. We slid into the back seat, and Oliver pressed his face to the window. "Look, Mom, the world is waking up." I swallowed the tightness in my throat. "Yes, sweetheart, it is." As the car pulled away, I looked back at our house. The lights were still off, the curtains still closed. It looked peaceful, normal, like the home of a family that had breakfast together every morning. But I knew better now. As we reached the main road, my phone buzzed again, this time from Rowan. "Did you take my black duffel bag?" "I cannot find it." I stared at the message. The duffel bag he was looking for was in his study, the same study he always locked, the study where he kept the wine he took to her apartment, the study full of secrets. "No," I typed back. That was the entire response, no explanation, no softness. He wrote again, "We should talk tonight." I didn't reply. Instead, I turned my phone face down and let myself breathe. Halfway to our destination, Oliver tapped my arm. "Mom? Yes? Is this a new adventure?" I looked at him, at his small hands clutching the rabbit, at the trust in his eyes. My chest tightened with a mixture of grief and resolve. "It is," I said. "A better one." He nodded sagely. "Good. Because the old adventure had too many boring parts." I laughed, the sound surprising me. "You're right. This one will be different." He leaned his head against my arm and closed his eyes, humming quietly. And for the first time in months, maybe years, I felt the faintest spark of peace. Not because everything was fixed, but because I was finally choosing myself. And because today was the first day of the life Rowan would never again have power to break. The Airbnb I booked was a small top-floor apartment in Capitol Hill, with brick walls, warm lighting, and a view of the street below. It was nothing fancy, but it felt safe. It felt mine. Oliver walked around the space like he was inspecting real estate. "Is this our new house?" he asked. "Just for a little while," I said, "until we figure out the next step." He nodded thoughtfully. "Does this place have snacks?" "Yes," I said. I checked. He pumped his fist like he had won a small victory. "Good, because adventures need snacks." I set our suitcase down and walked to the window, watching the city wake up around us. People with umbrellas hurried down the street. A dog barked from a balcony across the way. For a moment, the world felt strangely normal. Then my phone buzzed. 6 missed calls from Rowan. 3 new messages. "Where are you? We need to talk. I know something is going on. Call me." I set the phone face down on the table. The silence that followed felt like oxygen. While Oliver made a fort out of couch cushions, I wrote an email to the lawyer I had spoken to earlier in the week. I filled out the information she needed, attached the documents, and hit send before I could second-guess myself. A knock on the door startled me. I peered through the peephole. Darlene, wearing another baseball cap. This one said, "Trust no one." She held 2 bags of groceries. I opened the door. "How did you even find this place?" She stepped inside like she owned the apartment. "You sent me the address. Or at least I hope it was you. Otherwise I have just broken into a stranger's house." I stared at her. "I did not send you anything." She froze. "Well, someone did." My stomach dropped. Then she burst out laughing. "Relax, sweetheart. Your son gave it to me. He said, and I quote, 'Grandma neighbor should come.'" I covered my face. "Oh my God." Oliver popped out of his cushion fort. "Hi, Grandma neighbor." Darlene saluted him. "Reporting for duty." She handed me the grocery bags. Inside were essentials: fruit, juice boxes, pasta, and a giant box of cookies that could feed an army. "I did not know what you needed," she said, "so I bought everything." "Thank you," I whispered. She lowered her voice. "How did he take it?" "He doesn't know yet." She nodded. "Good. Let him sit in confusion. Men hate that more than anything." I had not planned on laughing that day, but she managed to break through the heaviness again. We talked quietly at the table while Oliver played. I told her about the lawyer, the documents, the plan ahead. She listened the way people listen when they genuinely care, not when they are waiting to talk. At one point, she leaned in. "You did the hardest part already. You left." I exhaled slowly. "It still feels unreal." "It will until one morning you wake up and realize you can breathe again." As if on cue, my phone buzzed once more. This time a longer message from Rowan. "I know you're upset. We can fix this. Just talk to me. I didn't do anything wrong." Darlene snatched the phone out of my hand before I could respond. Oh, the classic line, my husband used that in 1983. He was lying too. I raised an eyebrow. You keep mentioning 1983. Horrible year, she said. Great music, though. Oliver placed his stuffed rabbit on the table. Mom, Bunny says we're doing a good job. I looked at him, at Darlene, at the small apartment filled with secondhand furniture and first steps toward freedom. Bunny is right, I said softly. That afternoon I sent Rowan one message. I left because I needed safety and clarity. We will speak through lawyers from now on. I stared at the words before hitting send, my pulse steady, my breath even. It was the most powerful sentence I had ever written. The next week felt like stepping into a new version of myself. Every morning, I woke before Oliver, made tea in the tiny Airbnb kitchen, and opened my email waiting for updates from my lawyer. Every night, I tucked him into bed and watched his chest rise and fall, grateful that he was sleeping without the tension that had lived in our old house. Rowan, meanwhile, had entered what I could only describe as the panic phase. 8 missed calls one day, 3 voicemails the next. Half of them sounded angry, the other half frantic, and one sounded like he was trying very hard to cry but couldn't quite commit. I didn't respond. On Thursday afternoon, while Oliver napped, my phone vibrated with an email from my lawyer titled Temporary Custody Hearing. My breath caught. This was it. The real moment of separation. The real beginning. I read the email twice, then a third time to make sure I wasn't imagining things. The evidence I had submitted, the messages, the timeline, the financial transfers, was more than enough to justify temporary full custody. For the first time in weeks, I felt something loosen inside my chest. But the freedom came with another shock. 10 minutes later, I received a new message. Not from Rowan. From Human Resources at his company. Dear Mrs. Calloway, we are reaching out regarding ongoing internal investigations involving your husband, Rowan Calloway. Please contact us at your earliest convenience. I blinked so hard I thought I might detach a retina. Internal investigations? About what? Before anxiety could settle in, Darlene burst into the Airbnb like she had been launched inside by a catapult. I brought muffins, she announced. Also, someone named Brenda from HR left me a voicemail because she thought my number was yours. I did not correct her. I stared at her. Why would she call you? Because your son gave her my number when she asked for yours. I covered my face with both hands. Of course he did. Oliver, waking from his nap, popped his head out of the bedroom. Grandma neighbor, did you bring blueberry muffins? Yes, soldier, she said solemnly. Mission accomplished. He clapped, completely unaware we were in the middle of a life crisis. Once he was busy eating, I asked, what did Brenda say exactly? Darlene lowered her voice. Something about unauthorized spending and misuse of company accounts. My heart skipped. He used company money? Apparently, and not on office supplies unless office supplies now include wine and hotel rooms. I sank back into the couch. Suddenly the secrets he hid from me were not just marital lies. They were career-ending mistakes, and possibly criminal ones. Darlene crossed her arms. If he was hoping to keep this from you, well, that ship has sailed, sunk, and is now a documentary on the History Channel. A small shocked laugh escaped me. I can't believe this. No, sweetheart, she said gently. What you can't believe is that you put up with him this long. I didn't argue. That evening, I took Oliver to a small park near the apartment. He raced around the playground while I sat on a bench watching the sunset stretch over the Seattle skyline. Children laughed, dogs barked, the world kept turning, as if my life wasn't splitting and repairing itself at the same time. My phone buzzed again, this time a long message from Rowan. Please, I need to see you. Everything is falling apart. I lost my job today because of lies someone told about me. I know I messed up, but I can fix it. I love you. Please don't do this to our family. I read the message slowly, carefully, letting every word land. Then I asked myself one question. If he loved us, why did he risk everything for someone else? I typed a response with steady fingers. We are beyond the point of repair. Our lawyers will communicate. Do not contact me directly again. I hit send before I could soften the truth. As Oliver ran back toward me, breathless and smiling, I realized something simple and profound. I wasn't running anymore. I wasn't hiding. I wasn't scared. I was rebuilding. And Rowan was finally facing consequences he had earned all on his own. The day of the custody hearing arrived with a kind of nervous clarity I had never felt before. I wore a simple navy dress, nothing dramatic, just something that made me feel grounded. Oliver played with his stuffed rabbit in the waiting area, oblivious to the gravity of the moment. Children have a gift for floating above storms. My lawyer, Miss Hale, spoke calmly as she reviewed everything with me one last time. You did everything right, she said. You documented, you protected your child, and you removed yourself from a dangerous emotional environment. Judges appreciate clarity, not drama. A weak smile tugged at my lips. I have had enough drama for a lifetime. Rowan entered the courthouse a few minutes later. He looked smaller, like someone had deflated the confidence he used to wear like armor. His suit was wrinkled, his hair unstyled, and his eyes darted everywhere except toward me. He opened his mouth like he wanted to say something, but Miss Hale stepped in front of me and said, "Do not speak to my client." He shut his mouth so quickly, it made an audible click. The hearing moved quickly, too quickly for him, I think. The judge reviewed the evidence, the messages, the financial statements, the HR report, the sudden termination, the timeline of his absences, and asked me questions about safety, stability, and Oliver's well-being. Rowan tried to argue at one point, raising his voice about misunderstandings, but the judge held up a hand. "Sir, this is not the time for excuses. It is the time for accountability." It was the calmest destruction of a man's argument I had ever seen. Within 30 minutes, the judge awarded temporary full custody to me with supervised visitation for Rowan. The relief hit so hard I had to grip the bench for balance. Rowan stared at me, stunned. "Marina, please, you do not have to do this." I looked at him, really looked at him, and realized I didn't recognize the man standing there, not anymore. "This was your choice," I said quietly. "I am just responding to it." He reached for my arm, but the bailiff stepped between us, a silent wall of protection. For once, Rowan backed away. Outside the courthouse, Darlene was waiting on a bench wearing a cheerful yellow scarf and drinking hot chocolate like she had been watching a parade. "Well?" she asked. "I got custody," I said, still absorbing it. She inhaled deeply like she was smelling victory. "Ah, yes, justice. Smells better than my ex-husband's cologne." Oliver ran to her. "Grandma, neighbor, Mom won something." "Yes, she'd sweet boy," she said, scooping him up. She won her life back. We walked together to a small diner across the street. Oliver ordered pancakes shaped like dinosaurs, which made him beam. I ordered coffee that tasted like freedom. Darlene ordered pie because she said victory needs sugar. As we ate, the tension in my shoulders eased for the first time in months. It was subtle, slow, like thawing after a long winter. That afternoon, I signed the lease on a small apartment in Fremont. Nothing glamorous, hardwood floors, tall windows, a view of people walking dogs they clearly didn't train. But it felt like possibility. It felt like a beginning. Oliver ran through the empty living room, his footsteps echoing. "Mom, there is so much space for my toys, and so much space for peace," I said quietly. Later that evening, after he fell asleep on our new couch, I stood by the window watching the city lights shimmer. A soft knock sounded on the door. It was my neighbor from across the hall, a man around my age with kind eyes and a gentle smile. He introduced himself. "Hi, I'm Jonas. Welcome to the building. Let me know if you need help settling in." For the first time, I didn't flinch. I didn't shrink. I didn't think about Rowan. "Thank you," I said. "We could use a fresh start." He nodded. "This is a good place for that." As he walked away, I felt something shift inside me again. Not the sharp break of loss, not the heavy ache of betrayal, but something lighter. Something like hope. I closed the door, locked it, and leaned against it for a moment. This was my life now. Not perfect, not planned, but mine. And I was finally free to build it the way I deserved. Spring arrived quietly in Seattle, the kind of season that does not announce itself but simply settles in, softening everything it touches. I woke one morning to sunlight spilling through the tall windows of our new apartment, casting warm gold across the living room floor. Oliver was asleep on his blanket fort, snoring softly, his stuffed rabbit tucked under his chin. For the first time in a long time, I let myself stand still and take in the moment. Life had not magically become perfect, but it had become peaceful. And peace, I learned, was worth more than any apology Rowan could have ever offered. I had fallen into a gentle rhythm. Mornings with tea on the balcony, walks to the nearby farmer's market with Oliver, who insisted on sampling every free cookie. Evenings reading books after he fell asleep, the apartment filled with the quiet hum of a home rebuilding itself. One Saturday, Jonas knocked on my door with 2 cups of coffee. "I figured you might need caffeine," he said, smiling in that easy, genuine way of his. "Always," I replied. We talked in the hallway for almost an hour about nothing and everything. Books, movies, how he once accidentally joined a yoga class meant for seniors and refused to leave because they were surprisingly competitive. I laughed so hard my stomach hurt. Not because he was trying to impress me, but because he wasn't. It felt natural, gentle, safe. Later that week, Oliver asked, "Mom, do you like our new life?" I thought for a long moment before answering. "Yes," I said softly. "I like who I am becoming in it." He nodded, satisfied. Bunny likes it too. Healing, I realized, did not come all at once. It arrived in small ways, in laughter that did not feel forced, in mornings without dread, in the quiet understanding that surviving something painful did not make me weak. It made me open to something better. One evening, after I put Oliver to bed, I walked to the window and watched the city lights shimmer like scattered stars. I inhaled deeply and felt something settle inside me. A sense of knowing, a sense of enough. I was no longer the woman waiting for someone to choose her. I was choosing myself every single day. And for the first time in years, the future did not feel frightening. It felt wide open, and it felt like home.